Hello, folks. DJ Nuns coming at you here in my first webcast, broadcast, something cast. Going to try to have a little fun with this tool that I'm playing with and just kind of point to you some things that I'm looking at. One, starting with Canada and our trade deficit, or perceived trade deficit, or whatever it is you think might be going on in this whole thing. One, I point you to an article in the Financial Times. Let's see if I can get a date on this. I think if you just Googled, does the U.S. have a trade deficit with Canada? Financial Times, you should be able to pull this article up. Okay. And if you read through this, and this is the best data I could find, it's pretty inconclusive. The U.S. data suggests that if you're looking at just goods, then I think Canada is crushing us. And if you look at services, then it sort of evens out. And the bizarre thing here, as you go through the article, is Canada's data actually suggests there's more of a deficit for the U.S. than our own data. So before you get trapped into some sort of crazy conversation here, take a look. This was one stat that jumped out. But that is largely thanks to a $25.9 billion U.S. surplus in services, which range from financial services to tourism. That offset a $23.1 billion deficit in goods, which is really what I think all of this is being talked about. Again, just don't get trapped into the typical combo. Take a read at this, and if you have other data, share it. Moving on. Don't think there was a lot of coverage of this. Couple things I do like coming out of the Hill. Follow a lot of their stuff. I think John Solomon does a nice job. But technology theft, okay? Whether we like it or not, the economic implications are devastating, okay? $1.2 trillion in damages. Property theft between $225 billion and $600 billion annually. Yeah, that's clearly something that has to be attacked. I think when you look at what's going on in Korea, a unified Korea is not a good thing for China. I don't think that's an opinion. I think that's just a sort of known fact. But look more into this intellectual property theft. It's a really big deal. And again, before you start saying, China's taking over the world and they're going to be the next leader in the vacuum, there's some things being done on this front to take a peek at. Also coming out of the Hill, this was, a week ago or so, McCabe seeking immunity for Senate testimony on Clinton email. I'm just going to leave it right there. I don't think you would have really seen this on too much else. Seen a little bit of CNN being quoted in here, but as someone who watches a fair amount of CNN, I did not remember seeing too much of it. Sure is covered. I'm sure Jake Tapper will attack me and say, here's a link to us covering it for 13 seconds and never talking about it again, but we did cover it. So yeah, take a peek at that, do some Googling. That certainly was interesting. More on the economy front, Axios, I've actually sort of liked their article approaches and the data they're putting into things. Sometimes you catch some real doozies from them, but some super liberal stuff. But otherwise, I found that they provide really some of the best stats in a pretty short, condensed version. But there are now more job openings than people unemployed. Regardless, that's just I think, a good thing. Shows the labor market's going to tighten up. People are going to start, hopefully, seeing some increases in wages. But good stat to see. Good stat to see. Truly in the most bizarre coverage of the week. Still trying to wrap my head around this one. Hopefully this will play here. What's going on? Get the water off the table. Get the water off the table now. Mike, get your water off the table. If someone's got anything on this, I'd love to know. I have seen it get tied to Benjamin Netanyahu's little gig about water in Iran and some of the real scarcity issues they're having there. I really don't know. But if someone's got something, please share it. I think we're just gonna sort of end with this one for today. Crisis at the National Archives. 10th, Thomas Lipscomb at Real Clear Politics. I'm trying to spend a little more time on their platform and see what they got going on, but pretty hard here. Obama signed the Presidential Federal Records Act 2014, and as you get into this article, you're going to start to see that a lot of information is not being preserved, and it's really sort of leading to issues when it comes to the planning of Obama's library and kind of what's going on. So I find this really absurd, and really there's no coverage of it. But when you think about all the active investigations going on and the things going on under the prior administration, Russiagate, the implications of the current president, all this other stuff, and then you're seeing records being, taken out and terminated, and I highly suggest you read this article as it has a ton of interesting factoids and things to consider. All right, folks. It was a pleasure speaking with you, sharing with you some of the news I'm looking at, and have a good night. Cheers.